John 2:2. Vocatus est autem ibi et Iesus et discipuli eius ad nuptias. Both Jesus and his disciples were invited, moreover, there to the wedding. Here John is continuing to tell us about the wedding at Cana, one of the first very significant events in Jesus' public ministry. And we're going to begin by noting these coordinating ets. Both Jesus and the disciples of him were invited, vocatus est. Now really, it's plain to see that vocatus est technically only is really linking with Jesus, but it's clear from the sense of the sentence as we read it that the verb must be applying to both Jesus and discipuli eius. This is not problematic in Latin. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time, just as we often use expressions in our everyday English speech, which might not be strictly speaking grammatically precise, but which nevertheless are understandable and clear enough. Vocatus est Jesus. Jesus was invited. You might be used to seeing vocatus from voco, vocare, vocavi, vocatum as called or summoned, and often that's what it means, but it also has a special meaning in classical Latin going back all the way to the earliest times, all the way through going forward into just about every period in which the language was used, simply meaning invited. As in the sentence, I was invited to dinner by friends. And so it was used in that very common way on a day-to-day basis by Romans of all sorts of classes and stations, and that's how it's being used here in this rather non-Roman context. Jesus and the disciples were invited. Notice again the us and the est, both singular, referring immediately back to Jesus, but clearly to both parties. Vocatus est, third person singular, perfect, passive, indicative. He was invited. Autem, we've noted before that this word often does not have a strong adversative sense, or sometimes any adversative sense at all. In the Vulgate, it simply means moreover, in addition. Ibi, you'll remember, is repeated from our last verse somewhat unnecessarily, and ad nuptias is relatively self-explanatory. Remember that this is always plural, nuptiae, never occurs in the singular. One more thing we might want to note, it's just an interesting etymological point. Discipuli, of course, corresponds to what we find in the Greek text, which is mathetai, learners, literally, or disciples. In Latin, this verb quite obviously comes from disco, discere, to learn. So again, we've got learners. That's essentially what a disciple is one who learns from his master.